Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to my fan commentary on part 2 of the Ninja Quest storyline. So where we last left off in part 1, the devastation of the Rangers losing their original Zords. And the wreckage, the fiery destruction of them, it's just a very painful image just seeing this. I mean, I can't believe as a 3-year-old 30 years ago I saw this. I mean, it was something I probably didn't expect, apparently. Well, I think the reason for this is that, while the third season had some of the highest ratings ever for the show at the time, but this was still in a time ratings for Power Rangers was starting to decline, and also interest in the franchise started to wane at this point. So it was time that they started raising the stakes to try to get some people's attention. But since other shows were championing, against PR and, ratings and all of that at the time, we started seeing the downfall of the franchise at this point. And because, I would say that ever since the movie, when it came out, I think after 2.5 years of parent complaints, of the show being too violent, and then, the showrunners forcing to tone down Zed, and then a whole lot of other things. I think from this point, this was when the show was starting to hit a melancholy point. And I think they wanted to do this kind of approach for the show because the ratings for the show was starting to wane. And interest for the franchise was starting to wane too, because kids were moving on to other things. And since several of their favorites were no longer on the show anymore, and then several things had to be discontinued due to, yet again, parent complaints, that's why the show had to change its tune a little bit by this season. It seemed like while the villains were still hokey jokey and over the top, the Rangers had to underplay themselves and try to be serious with their acting. Well, again, the characters have come a long way over time, so it made sense that you would think that 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin, it was just time that we needed to get their act together and try to not make it too silly, because parents already complained about the violence and stuff of the show enough. And Billy wearing that blue tank top, he would eventually wear that tank top in a few episodes of the Alien Rangers arc. Now that pose with all 6 Rangers with their hands together in a circle, and then them all standing together in a circle. They did this in the movie. Again, not canon, but again, how they revived Zordon with the great power. But here, they're just being teleported to find the Desert of Despair and find Ninjor's temple. Okay, so again, another difference from the movie to the show. Flashing lights, man. You're trying to give us epileptic seizures? Come on, man. And again, Vasquez rocks where the command center actually is, but again, they had to give us the illusion that they're somewhere else. I swear, one of these days, if I ever travel to California, I may probably visit Vasquez Rocks. They haven't been to Vasquez Rocks since the very first episode of the franchise, too, because back in Day of the Dumpster, that's how the Rangers fought the Putties for the first time. But here, 3 years later, no, 2.5 years, 3 seasons later, it's 6 Rangers facing new villain foot soldiers. Those bird things, the Tengas, of course. Man, I mean, final time we're going to see Bulk and Skull in their punk bully attire after 3 seasons. But again, it's time for them to change and, shape themselves up. That's why they had that song, Shape It Up, Bulk and Skull, in this 4-parter. Too bad that song never came out on its own, sadly, officially. And there's a lot of music that Saban never got to release for Power Rangers on their own because, I don't know, licensing reasons to release songs that we heard on the show, battle music we heard on the show. And they just never wanted to release it for some reason. But that's Saban for you. So what you going to do? Last time we're going to see them with the bully stuff, so... Same outfits they've been wearing for 3 seasons straight. And then have them cut that hair. They'll grow it back by Turbo, so. Well, I do like the Rangers' storyline in this 4-parter, but Bulk and Skull's storyline of how they have to shape up to join the Junior Patrol and all of that was actually more interesting because these two, from bullies to being admirers of the Rangers to being honorary would-be heroes, that's quite a progression. Yeah, them push-ups. I mean, of course they had to fast forward the footage to make it look like it's fast for comedic effect, and then the, jumping jacks. That's so funny. Still is. I mean, Bulk may be fat, but he has some muscle, I could tell. But he just needs to lose that fat a bit. Possibly. I didn't really like how in the movie when Ivan brought the Tengas to life, he had to snort out some purple snot coming out of his nose. I was gonna say booger, but it just my tongue was slipping. But yeah, that purple snot coming out of his nose, and then the purple ooze snot brought them to life, which is still disgusting, but it was just real disgusting in the movie. But the show, the Tengas would come out of these eggs as they hatched. You continue to keep getting his name wrong. Stupid bonehead. Well, I like campy, goofy Rito, but I wish that in my possible Power Rangers cinematic fan film, cinematic universe stuff outside of this, I'll try to keep the charm and goofiness of Rito, but I just got to figure out if I'm going to make Rito very intimidating and tempting and a formidable force for the Rangers, I got to figure out how to play him serious, probably for a future project. He has the look. I mean, I'm a sucker for skeleton characters, so we just got to give him a more serious edge a little bit. I mean, kind of similar to how Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury recently made Lord Zed more pure evil than here. Now, while the Tengas have been unleashed, but in some areas you still get some shades of some of the purple ooze left over from the movie. Of course, they had to wash off whatever ooze was on their beaks and try to make it, not so visible, because again, the movie is not canon to the show again. So you have to make sure that the purple stuff on their beaks are barely, completely off. But it's still barely still in the beaks. They never did wipe those off, and because again, they don't have the rights to everything from the movie. Because again, when as soon as they start incorporating stuff we have from the movie into season 3, I mean, they managed to get the ninja suits for the Rangers, they managed to get the Tenga suits, but they just didn't have the rights to the movie, the armored suits for the Rangers that they could have used for the metallic armor. And that's kind of a bummer, because like many people, even I guess myself included, I've always wondered if when they had the metallic armor, they could have used those suits, but no, because again, got to realize at this point in time, the cast, after filming the movie, they had you could tell that from their acting approach for the season. I'm talking about the Rangers, that you could tell that the cast was exhausted from filming the movie, because working on the movie was kind of a nightmare behind the scenes. Them wearing those heavy 100-ton Ranger suits and stuff, and bad enough, the pink and yellow suits that Karen Ashley and Amy Jo Johnson wore gave them back pains. And I guess that explains why, heck, the suits probably even gave the main cast, the stunt crew, and the suit acting team claustrophobia wearing those helmets, because those helmets were huge. And it sucks they never did use those helmets further out. I mean, again, Saban didn't have the rights to use the movie suit. So, that would explain why they did incorporate them. But that's the point in the years ago. We had these metallic shine, nothing against them, Ranger figures, and when realizing that those suits could have worked. I mean, again, the movie suits could have worked for the metallic armor later, but I guess, well, screw it. Now, part 2 of Ninja Quest is, it had a few things I did like going for it, but this part of the 4-parter I like the least. I'm sorry to say, because this is the first time in the show's lifetime we would see a whole episode where the Rangers are not in their suits, but it makes sense because they don't have their powers at this point story-wise. And then seeing how the Rangers were lining up here at this shot, and when Kimberly picking up that fiery rock, you can tell that we have them exactly how the colors were posed, like black, yellow, pink, white, blue, red and blue, like on the movie poster. Again, the movie is not canon, goddammit. I did like the fact that they raised the stakes of them going into the desert or despair with the obstacles they had to overcome, them losing the map in the You could tell it was very hot filming under the sun for those long periods. I think filming part 2 probably took 4 or 5 days of filming with the main cast here on Vasquez Rocks. And then Aisha in the sinkhole, they had to give it to make it look like she was sinking, but they just had to dig a hole to make it look like she was being trapped. They had to dig that hole so deep for her to go. I mean, because again, to make it look like she was sinking into that deep hole, that sinkhole. It was just. Same shot of the sun, the zoom in of the sun from earlier. This mountain formation ain't no different from what we saw earlier. It's just nothing different about this. Going back and forth, it's like, dang, it feels like we're going back and forth in circles. Again, same spot on Vasquez Rocks. I feel like, man, when they filmed this, they try to make it like they were running in the circles, like because trying to give us the illusion and then the suspension of disbelief that they're in a different rock formation. And then the big black birds come in. So gone are the putties and enter Tenga. Yep. Again, this is when so you can tell that they were trying to tone down the level of the fight scenes, them unmorphed and all of that, like they did, because even without their powers, even in this point, they are no match against the Tengas because the Tengas are strong. Because we don't even know if the Tengas and even Rito are even that strong anyway. Because yeah, what they had when they had their powers, I mean, their old powers just didn't stood a chance against the new threats. So it made sense narratively. Yeah, while Dulcia may have swooped in and saved the Rangers from these things in the movie, but the Rangers have to figure a way to get away from them and on their own. So yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Because again, watching Ninja Quest and then going back to the first Power Rangers movie, you're going to see. I mean, seeing these stark differences of how they did the power, how they got their ninja powers and Zords different, are interesting cases. Because again, I think the TV show did a far more. I hate to say a far more superior job at it. I mean, the movie was fine. I mean, I still like it, but at the same time, they kind of dragged the story on a little too long. Especially how they were going to get a power source to save Zordon in the movie. So I think the TV show did a much better job at this. How they got their new powers in Zords. Because they wanted to make the quest more daunting and stake raising. I don't know about you guys, but does anybody get any vibes of the Tengas resembling something Jim Henson's Creature Shop would have done? Especially like something out of like the Dark Crystal. I mean, I've always liked the Tenga Warriors designs, even though saw them here first before I, you know, ever saw the first Power Rangers movie on VHS as a kid. Technically, I've seen Ninja Quest first, but when me and my brother got the first Power Rangers movie on VHS months later, and we started seeing what was different from the movie to the TV show to the movie to the show. And then as soon as Tommy goes through that wall, there could be a teleportation. I mean, that wall is like some teleportory rock wall, and that would send them to another part of the realm of finding the temple. And again, I don't know how they did this visual effects wise, how they went through the wall. They just walked through it and stopped. And then they would use some of the visual effects to make it look like they were teleporting through that wall to go somewhere and follow Tommy. And that's how part 2 ends. They just follow through that wall, teleportory wall, to find Tommy where he went. Because I think that's where they think he may have went to, just to find the temple.